Hello everyone.
Hello.
Thank you back. Welcome back.
Welcome back to our channel.
Bringing now the power of now.
Continue with our twin flames or
our soul
twin
connection or soul connection.
Soul level connection.
A guide to a spiritual enlightenment. We're going to continue with chapter 5, the state of presence.
It's not you know that it's already 2 o'clock in the morning and we're still
it's almost 3.
It's almost 3 a.m. in the morning. We're still
Chapter 5, because we used to work late shift. The state of presence. It's not what you think it is. You keep talking about the state of presence as a key. I think understand is intellectually, but I don't know if I have ever truly experienced it. I wonder, is it what you think it is, or something entirely different? It's nothing what you think it is. You can't think about presence and the mind that can't understand it. Understanding the present is being present. Trying a little experiment. Close your eyes and say to yourself, I wonder what the next thought is going to be. Then become very alert and wait for the next thought, like being a cat watching a mouse hole. What thought is going to come out of the mouse hole? Try it now. Well, I had to wait for a while. A long time ago, a thought came in. Exactly. As long as the state of intense presence, you are free of thought. You are still yet highly alert. The instant your conscious attention sinks below a certain level, thought rushes in, the mental noise returns, the stillness is lost, you are back in mind. To test their degree of presence, some Zen masters have been known to creep up on the students from behind and suddenly hit them with a stick. Quite a shock. If the student had been fully present and state of alertness, if he had kept his loin gritted in his lamp burning, which is one of the most analogies that Jesus uses of presence, that he would have noticed the master coming up from behind and stopped him and stepped aside. But if he were hit and the he-man was immersed in thought, which is stay absent unconscious, to stay present everyday life, it helps to be deeply rooted within yourself. Otherwise, the mind, which is incredible momentum, will drag you along like a river. What would you do meaning rooted within yourself? It means to inhabit your body fully, to always have some of your attention to inner energy field of your body. To feel the body from within, so to speak. Body awareness keeps your presence. It anchors you in the now. The esoteric meaning of waiting. In a essence, the state of presence could be compared to Jesus, waiting Jesus, used as an analogy to waiting in some of his parables. This is not this usual bored or restless thing kind of waiting, that the denial of the present that I spoke already. That already is not just waiting, which is your attention is focused on some point in the future, and the present is perceived as an undesirable obstacle that prevents you from having that what you want. There is qualitatively different kinds of waiting. One that requires your total alertness. Something could happen at the moment. And if you're absolutely awake, absolutely still, you will miss it. This is the kind of waiting Jesus talks about, and the state of all of your attention is in the now. There is nothing left for daydreaming, thinking, remembering, anticipating. There is no tension in it, no fear, just alert presence. You are present with your whole being, with every cell of your body.
In that state, the you that has the past and the future, a personality, if you like, is heartily there and no more. And yet nothing of value is lost. You are still essentially yourself. In fact, you are more fully yourself than you ever were before, or rather, it is only now. And then you are truly yourself. Be like the servant waiting for the returns of the masters, says Jesus. The servant does not know at the hour of the masters is going to come, so he stays awake, alert, poised, stills, lest he miss the master's arrival. In another parable, Jesus speaks of the five clearest unconscious women who do not have enough oil consciousness to keep their lamp burning, stay present, and so miss the bridging bridegrooms get now and doesn't get to the wedding feast enlightenment. Right. These five stands in the contrast of five wise women who have enough oil stay conscious. Even the men who wrote the Gospels did not understand the meaning of these parables. So the first misinterpretations and the distortions crept in as they were written down. This with subsequent erroneous interpretations, the real meaning of is completely lost. These are parables not about the end of the world, but at the end of the psychological time. They point the transcendence of the egoic mind of the possibility of living in the entirely new states of unconsciousness. Beauty arises in the stillness of your presence. What have you just described is something that I occasionally experience for brief moments when I am alone and surrounded by nature. Yes, Zen masters use the word satori to describe the flash of the insights, the moments of the non-mind and total presence. Although satori is not lasting transformations, be grateful when it comes, for it gives you this taste of enlightenment. You may indeed have experiences in many times without knowing what it is and realize its importance. Presence is needed to become aware of the beauty, the majesties, and the sacredness of nature. Have you ever gazed up into the infinity of the space on a clear night? Always struck by the absolute stillness and inconceivable vastness of it. Sorry, PTSD. Have you truly listened to the sounds of the mountain? have, have you truly listened to the sounds of mountain streams into the forest? Or to the songs of blackbird at dusk and quiet summer evening? To become aware of such things, the mind needs to be still. You have to put down the moments of your personal baggage, of problems of the past and futures, you as well as all your knowledge. Otherwise, you will see but not see, hear but not hear. Your total presence is required. Beyond this beauty of the external forms, there is more here. Sometimes that cannot be named. Something ineffable, some deep inner holy essence. Whenever and wherever there is beauty, this inner essence shines through somehow. It only reveals itself to you when you are present. Could it be that this nameless instance and and your presence are one of the same. Would it be there without your presence? Go deeply into it. Find out for yourself.
When you experience those moments of presence, you likely didn't realize that you're briefly in a state of no mind. This is because the gap between the state of an influx of thought was too narrow. Your satori may leave have lasted for a few seconds, maybe before the mind came in. But it was there, otherwise you would have not experienced the beauty. Mind and no either recognize can nor beauty create beauty. Only for a few seconds while you were completely present was that beauty, or that sacredness there. Because of the narrowness of that gap, lack of vigilance and alertness on your part, you were probably unable to see the fundamental difference between the perception. The thoughtless awareness of the beauty and naming of the interpreting of it as thought. The time gap was so small that it seemed very to be in a single process. The truth is, however, that was a thought that came in, all you had was a memory of it. The wider the time gap between perception and thought, the more depth there is you have a human being, which is to say that the more conscious you are, many people are so imprisoned in their minds. That was the beauty of the nature does not really exist for them. They might say, "Whoa, what a pretty flower." But that was just a mechanical mental labeling. Because they are not still, not present, and don't truly see the flower, don't feel its essence, its holiness, just as known as themselves, don't feel their own essence, their own holiness. Because we live in such a dominant mind culture, most modern art, architecture, music, and literature, and devoid the beauty of inner essence, with very few exceptions. The reason is that people who create those things cannot, even more for a moment, free themselves from their mind, so they're never in touch with the place within where true creativity and beauty arise. The mind love itself creates monstrosities, and not only in art galleries. Look at the urban landscapes and industrial wasteland. No civilization has ever produced so much ugliness. Realizing pure conscious, in presence the same as being. When you became conscious of being, what is really happening is that the being becomes more conscious of himself. When being becomes conscious of itself, that presence, since being conscious and life is synonymous. We can say that the presence means conscious becoming conscious of itself, of life attaining self-consciousness. But don't get attached to those words. So don't make the effort of understanding this. There is nothing you need to understand before you can become present. I do understand what you just said, but it seems like imply what is that being. The ultimate transcendental reality is not yet complete. That is undergoing a process of development. Does God need time for personal growth?
Yes, but only as seen from the limited perspective of the manifested universe. In the Bible, God declares, "I am the Alpha and I am the Omega, and I am willing to the living one." In the timeless realm where God dwells, which is also your home, the beginning and the end. The Alpha and the Omega are one, and the essence of everything that ever has been and ever will be is internally present in an unmanifested state of oneness and perfection, totally beyond anything the human mind can ever imagine or comprehend it. In our world of singleness, separations, forms, however, timeless perfections is an unconceivable concept. Here, even consciousness, which is the light emanating from the internal source, seems to be subject to process of development, but this is due to our limited perceptions. It is not so in absolute terms. Nevertheless, let me continue to speak for the moment about the evolutions of consciousness in this world. Everything that exists it has gone instance, has some degrees of consciousness. Even the stone has rudimentary consciousness, otherwise it would not be. And its atoms and molecules would disperse. Everything is alive. The sun, the earth, the plants, animals, and humans. All these expressions of consciousness is in varying degrees. Consciousness manifesting as form. The world arises when consciousness takes a shapes of forms that forms the materials forms. Look at the millions of the life forms on this planet alone. The sea, on land, in air, and then each life forms a replicated millions of times. To what end? Is someone or something playing a game with forms? This is what the ancient seers of India asked themselves. They saw the world as lila, the kind of divine game or the god is playing. The individual's life forms are obviously more very important in this game. And it sees most life forms don't survive for more than a few minutes for being born. The human forms turns to dust pretty quickly too. And when it's gone, it is as if it has never been. Is that tragic or cruel? One of books created a separation identity for each form. If you forget that its consciousness, its God is its present expressions, is self-informed, but you don't truly know that until you realize your own God instance as pure consciousness.
If a fish is born in your aquarium and you call it John, write up a birth certificate. Tell him that his family history in 2 minutes. Later, he gets eaten by another fish. That's tragic, but the only tragic because you projected separate yourself where there was none. You got a whole fraction of a dynamic process, a molecular dance, and made a separate entity out of it. Consciousness takes a disguise of forms until you reach such complexity of its complete loses within itself and in them. In present day, humans' consciousness is completely identified with its disguise. It only knows itself such a form. There lies a fear of annihilation of its physical or psychological form. There is the egoic mind, and there is what is there considerable dysfunction sets in. It looks like that as if something had gone very wrong somewhere along the line of evolution. But in its part of Lila, the divine game, finally the presence of the suffering of creative is apparent dysfunction forces conscious to disidentify from form that awakens it away from dreams of the form. It regains self-conscious, but the far deeper level than the when it loses it. This is the process of what explains by Jesus in his parable of the lost son, who leaves the father's home, squanders with his health, becomes destitute, and is forced by his suffering return home. When he does, his father loves him more than ever before. The son's state is the same that it was before, yet not the same in its added dimension of the death. The parable describes a journey from a conscious perfection through the apparent imperfection and evil of conscious perfection. Present the watcher of your mind. Whenever you watch the mind, you withdraw conscious from the mind forms, which becomes what you call the watcher or the witness. Consequently, the watcher, pure's consciousness beyond form, becomes stronger and the mental formations become weaker. When we talk about watching the mind, we are personalizing an event that is truly cosmic significance. Through you, conscious is awaking out of dream of identification, which is form of withdrawal from form. The shadow spot is already part of an event that's probably still distant future as a chronological time is concerned. The event is called the end of the world.
When consciousness frees itself from the identifications with physical and mental forms, it becomes what we may call pure or enlightenment consciousness or presence. This has already happened to a few individuals that it seems this distance to happen so soon on a much longer scale. Although there is no absolute guarantee that it will happen, most humans are still in the grip of egoic mode of consciousness, identified with their minds and run by their minds. If they do not free themselves from their mind in time, they will be destroyed by it. They will experience increasingly confusions, conflicts, violence, and illnesses despite madness. Egoic mind has become like a sinking ship. If you don't get off, you will go down with it. The collective egoic mind is the most dangerously insane of the destructive entities even to inhabit this planet. What do you think? What happens, or this planet's of humans' consciousness remains unchanged? Already, for most humans, the only respite they find from their own minds is to occasionally revert to the level consciousness below thought. Everyone does that every night during the sleep. But this also happens to some extent through sex, alcohol, and other drugs that suppress excessive mind activities. If it weren't for alcohols, tranquilizers, antidepressants, as well as illegal drugs, which are being consumed in vast quantities, the insanities of the human's mind will become even more glaringly obvious than it is already. I believe that if deprived of their drugs, a large part of the populations would become a danger to themselves and others. These drugs, of course, simply keep you stuck in dysfunctions. Their widespread use only delay the breakdown of the old mind constructions and emergence of the higher consciousness. While individuals users may get some relief from the delayed tortures inflicted on them by their mind, they are prevented from generating enough conscious presence to raise others' thoughts so they can find true liberation.
Falling back to level conscious below mind, which is pre-thinking level of the distant ancestors and animals and plants, is not an option for us. There is no way back. If the human race is no way to survive, it still will go on to the next stage. Consciousness evolving throughout the universe, billions of forms. So even if we didn't make it, it wouldn't make a matter of a cosmic scale. No gain of consciousness is ever lost, so it would simply express itself through some other form.
What was that? It wasn't a big.
But the very fact is, I am speaking here, you are listening to the reading of the clear sign that consciousness is gaining a foothold on the planet. There is nothing personal in this. I am not teaching you, you are conscious and you are listening to yourself. There is an Eastern saying that the teacher was taught together create the teaching. In any case, the words in themselves are not important. They are not the truth. They only point to it. I speak the presence as in I speak, you may be able to join me in the state. Although every word that I use, it has a history, of course, that comes from the past. As well the language does, the words I speak as of you now carries of the high energy frequency of the presence, quite apart from the meaning of the convey of words. Silence is a more potent character of presence. So when you read this or listen to me or speak, be aware of the silence between the underneath of the words. Be aware of the gaps to listen to the silence wherever you are. Wherever you are, it is an easier way direct to become more present. Even if there is noise, there's always some silence underneath in between the sounds. Listening to the silence immediately creates stillness inside you. Only the stillness in you perceives silence outside. And what is a stillness other than the presence consciousness freed from thought forms? Here are the living realizations of what we have been thinking, talking about. Christ, the reality of your divine presence. Don't get attached to any word. You could substitute Christ for presence, if the more meaningful to you. Christ, if you're a God, essence of the self, and is sometimes called the inner East. The only difference between Christ and your presence is that Christ refers to your indwelling divinity, regardless of whether you're conscious of its only not. Whereas presence means that you're awakened divinity God essence. Many understandings of false beliefs about Christ will be clear if you realize that there is no past or future in Christ. To say that there is a Christ that was or will be in a contradiction in terms, Jesus was. He was a man who lived thousands of years ago in divine presence, his true nature. And so he said, before Abraham was I told he need not say, I already existed before Abraham was born.
That would have meant that he was still within the dimensions, the times, and form entities. The words "I am" used in the sentence that starts in the past tense and indicates a radical shift, a discontinuity in the temporal dimensions. It is a Zen-like statement of great profanity. Jesus attempted to convey directly, not through discourses. Thoughts. The meaning of the presence of self-realizations. He had gone beyond the consciousness dimensions governed by the time, into the realm of the timeless. The dimensions of the eternity had become into the world. Eternity, of course, does not mean endless times, but no time. Thus, the man Jesus becomes Christ, a vehicle for pure consciousness, and one of his God's self-identifying identifications is the Bible. Did God say, I have always been and I will always will be? Of course not. That would be given a reality of to the past and future. God said, I am that I am. No time here, just presence. The second coming of the Christ is transforming the human's consciousness. A shift from the time presence from thinking to pure consciousness, not the arrival of some man's or woman's. The Christ were to return tomorrow in some externalized forms. What could he or she possibly say to you other than this? I am the truth. I am the divine presence. I am eternal light. I am with you. I am here. I am now. Never personalize Christ. Don't make Christ into a form identities. Avatars, divine fathers, enlightenment, masters, and very few that are real are not specials as persons without a false self to uphold. Define the feed. There are simply more ordinary than the ordinary man or woman. Anyone with a strong ego would regard themselves significant or more likely not see them at all. If you are drawn to an enlightening teachers, it is because there is already enough presence in you to recognize presence in others. There were many people who did not recognize Jesus or the Buddha, as there are and always have been many people who are drawn to the false teacher. Egos are drawn to bigger egos. Darkness cannot recognize light. Only light can recognize light. So don't believe that the light is outside you, or it can only become through a particular forms. If only your masters is the incarnations of God, then who are you? Any kinds of exclusivities as identifications with form. The identifications with forms means ego, no matter how well um, disguised.
Guys. Use the Master's presence to reflect your own identity beyond name and form back to you, and to become more intensely present yourself. You will soon realize that there is no mine on or yours in presence. Presence is one. Group work can be helpful for intensifying the light of your presence. A group of people coming together in a state of presence generates collective energy field at great intensity. It not only raises the degree of presence of each member of a group, but it also helps to get freed from the collective human consciousness from its current state of mind dominance. This will make the state of presence increasingly more accessible to individuals. However, unless at least one member or group is already firmly established in it, thus can hold on to the energy frequency of the state. The egoic mind can easily reassert itself and sabotage the group endeavors. Although group work is invaluable, it is not enough and it must be done depending on it. Nor that must come to depend on a teacher or master except during the transitional period when you are learning from the meaning of practice of presence. Okay, everyone, that is the end of chapter 5. We'll continue on to chapter 6 next time, which talks about the inner body. That's it for chapter 5 for the power of one. See you next time.
See you next time.